So this is my attempt to kind of revamp an old painting I had. I did the painting in a class I took 2 years ago, and in this class I learned how to be free with color, but this actually I think was the first project we did, and so I was still very rigid to painting exactly what I saw. The result is boring to me now, and that's why I wanted to change it. You can kind of see in the bottom left corner that I'm looking at a book as a reference. This book is full of decor ideas on how to use color in your house, and it is very beautiful. I will link it down below if you're interested. I looked through this book for a photo that had a similar perspective as the one in my painting, and I found a photo that had a table in it, and it just seemed like it would fit perfectly with the chair that I already have here. In the beginning, I was actually going to try to preserve some of the original framework of the painting. I like to paint geometrically. I don't know why, it's just the way I see things. And I didn't end up using really anything except for what's touching the model. And the model was one of the things that I actually had wanted to change because between you and me, it wasn't my favorite one to work with. But as you'll see through the process of this painting, my plans change, and really, it's kind of hard to plan to an extent when you're in the flow of things. Um, you'll just kind of do what works and what feels right. So what you've seen so far, I spent a long time painting that shadow box. Probably, I mean, I actually don't remember. Definitely at least half an hour. Um, I find that at the beginning of a painting, if I'm feeling excited about it, I'll get caught up on the little details. But that's generally not a good idea because as you're going along, things will change and you will have to paint over the shadow box you painstakingly took 20 minutes to make perfect, which you'll see I do in the future of this video. In general, it's better to work, or at least more efficient to work, um, I guess from general to specific. I don't really know how else to put it. And by that I mean working with the larger spaces of color, and then once you have those down, at least in a proportion that you want, then working in towards the smaller details and refining the color of each area. Another mistake I made here is you can see I painted all those outlines on the table very thick. Um, And that's not necessarily a problem depending on what you're doing, but since I was painting over other things that I still wanted to show through, it was a problem for me in the future because I had to kind of remix all those little tones that it was covering where I wanted to make that line thinner. So it would have been more efficient for me to maybe outline with a pencil beforehand. Um, Here you can see that I've begun working with the color a little bit. So I added that what looks like a window, it's actually supposed to be the back of a chair to match the chair that the guy's sitting on. I'm putting a shirt on him. I left the purple on the floor. I'm really still in the searching stage here, that kind of in-between stage where I'm figuring out what works and what doesn't. This can also always be made more efficient if you do a first draft beforehand, or if rather than painting the whole area, you just add like a blotch of paint. Then you can see if you like it, if it works with all the other colors you intend on putting around there, and then paint the whole thing after once you've figured it out. Another thing you can do is choose your palette ahead of time and mix your colors, have them all laid out. It's definitely more efficient, much more efficient to plan your painting, but it's a lot more fun, I think, to have that searching aspect. There's something very satisfying about it, and just being in the moment with it and kind of going intuitively through the process and feeling, as I said before, feeling what works and what doesn't work, and using that to guide your process. At this point in the painting, I've decided that I want to use red, yellow, blue as my main colors, or red, green, and blue. Um, when you have a color scheme and you confine yourself, it makes it easier I think to have everything flow, to have all the colors kind of communicate with each other and establish a rhythm and a language in the piece. So I don't have that very developed here, but you can see I have, for example, the blue statue in the shadow box and the blue napkin. They're kind of talking to each other. They're the only things in the painting that are those colors, and you see them and you notice them as a pair. And then I also try to do that with the rug and the shirt, which I eventually took out the rug. At this point, I am starting to focus on the little details again because I knew I wanted that placemat with the dishes and the silverware on it right there, and I liked how it looked in my reference photo, so I went ahead and took care of that. Um, Also, working on the areas that you're confident in, that you know you like, even though they could change, it bides you time on the areas that you're still thinking about. At this moment, I was feeling uncomfortable with the color of the shirt and the rug. I was unsure about the chair still in the front, and I hadn't um, developed that bowl of peppers in the back, in case you were wondering what those were. Now, here's a pro tip for details. It seems obvious. Get the fine brushes. I had a nice tiny brush that I was using when I was in college, and unfortunately, it was stolen. I believe it was stolen. So what I'm using here is actually, I think it's meant to be for acrylics, and it's not that fine, and it's also very frayed. So it's not doing a great job making those precise details like I want. Um, if you're someone who's really going for precision, I recommend investing in good brushes to help you with that. So although I was pretty sure that I wanted these dishes here, and I was using the colors that were similar to what I saw in the reference photo, um, I ended up basing the other colors in the painting off of those because it took me so long to do all those details and I didn't want to have to do them over again to match the other colors in the painting. So, um, referencing what I said earlier, it really is best to at least know what your color scheme is before you go into the details to save you a lot of pain. Hi, by the way, now that you can see my face in there a lot, it's really awkward painting at this angle. It took me like 30 minutes to set up my tripod in the beginning because I wanted to give you the best view of my painting as well as the best lighting, and I didn't want to be in the way. So that's why I'm leaning over it at times because I kind of need to get close to paint those details. Admittedly, this is my first time filming a time lapse. Really, this is my first YouTube video, period. So it can only go uphill from here. Hopefully, my next video will have better lighting, an even better view of the painting, and maybe I'll have a nicer brush then too. We'll see. At this point, I was thinking that I liked the way the red was in there, how there's some on the floor, in the middle, right side, it's on the chair, it's in the peppers. I thought I could. I also really liked how that dull red kind of looked near all those blues and greens. So I was going to try to make that a thing. I started replacing the orangey colors and also that the tan color of his legs, just trying to simplify the palette even more and make a more cohesive picture. Here now I'm adjusting the light blue on his shirt, which previously matched the rug that I got rid of. Now it's going to match the teacup. And at this moment I was thinking it'd be funny to kind of make a comparison between the guy and the teacup. The cup is in the foreground. Um, it's almost like it occupies its own space at the table, whereas he doesn't really belong at the table. He's not sitting at the placemat. He's kind of looking despondently in the corner. Um, so take that as you will. I don't really have a deeper meaning for this painting, I would say. I was mainly focused on design while I was making it, but I was kind of toying with that theme that I just mentioned. He's the only person there, so it must be about him. but I've painted him kind of like an object. I've covered him with other objects. Um, so I don't know. Tell me what you think. Um, at this point, I'm adjusting the colors even more. I made the green on the walls a cooler shade. I just thought it looked, well, first of all, it matched the plate. Like I was saying earlier, I made the walls match the plate that I spent so much time painting. Um, I ended up adding more of that orange back in because, well, really it's yellow ochre and raw sienna because I felt like it was talking to the yellow in a good way. Um, I made the walls in the back green because I liked the movement of that viridian color from up there across the placemats. It kind of gives you an entry into the painting. And on the other hand, now that there is not yellow on that back wall, you enter in the yellow on the right side, and then it kind of winds down the candlestick around the plate and to the farther silverware. While I was painting this, I was really conscious of the movement of things. Um, I guess everything's kind of based around the roundness of the table, right? So there's the chair. I originally had kind of a square shaped chair, and then I decided to curve it around the table to reinforce that roundness. And then we have also the stacked plates I felt looked kind of like a ripple. And then the way the placemats kind of turn around the table, it had a whirlpool motion to me. The reason why you should care about the movement and the colors communicating in your painting is it really determines how a viewer's eyes travel around through it, what they see first. Um, if you spend some time looking at other paintings, you might notice that there are some that have a really clear path, like your eyes bounce around the same handful of points over and over again. Um, or maybe there is no path at all. Maybe it's um, very abstract. It's definitely not necessary to have this kind of movement, but I think it is really beneficial depending on what your motives are. It's obviously a more design focused concept, and if you like to paint ideas mainly, or if you're trying to communicate something particular, maybe you're responding to culture, then this might, I mean, you could still certainly use it. Um, but maybe design isn't a priority for you. Maybe it's not applicable to what you're painting. I can't think of a situation in which that would happen, but every artist has their own way of doing things. So at this stage in the painting, I'm very confident in what I have laid down. I've developed a lot of the details. Um, just now I added that black rectangle because I wanted to travel the black more. I liked how I had it there from the guy's hair, through the chair, through the legs of his pants, through this kind of the spokes on the other chair. And I thought it would be interesting to have kind of a source on the top, like it's streaming down almost. Afterwards, I felt like it was almost very powerful, that black right there. I feel like it adds another mood to the painting. I don't know what this means yet. Let me know if you have any ideas. You'll notice I also added in some white in the bottom left corner and on the wall on left to the man's head. That's because I wanted to move the white around more, and I also wanted white there to communicate with the black, um, because that can be a good thing. Um, but I ended up taking some of it out, because it just wasn't reading right for me. Ultimately, I was searching for a sense of balance with the colors, with the color relationships and the movement. And I finished painting when I felt that I'd achieved that and when I felt that all the details were as refined as I could make them.